Good evening, everybody. It's W1RCP with our FCC exam study. Tonight, I think we'll just go through the normal realm of things. We won't focus on just one. I just don't think I have the capability to make it through a general tonight, so we'll see what happens. So if you guys will get ready, you'll go to hamtesttrivia.com. That's http://hamtesttrivia.com/play.php. And I'll put all of that up in the chat for you. And I think we're ready to go. So here we go. Alrighty, so hamtesttrivia.com. And if you go to hamtesttrivia.com/play, that is where you will see the play button up in the top right-hand corner. And you can click play. And the way this works is we will have a code, which is going to be W1RCP dash and some numbers. And then you can put your call sign or your name. And there are 4 past episodes. And if you are just tuning in for the first time, if you want to go through and play along with us, if you'll enter your name or call sign and enter the code from the past videos, you can also take those exams, air quote, exams again and again. Don't use the same call sign, though. If you want to post your scores, use your call sign with a number at the end if you've already played it once. That's the secret. Okay, so that's how you're going to log in, and that's the screen. If you get the code that I have put on the screen correct, then you'll get a screen that says you're ready to go, and then you'll click Take the Exam. So we're going to go to the overlay so you can see probably the wrong screen, but we're going to hopefully see hamtesttrivia.com once we transition. And here we go. So here's what it looks like on my screen. And I'm sitting in the swingy chair tonight instead of being in the foyer. Alrighty, so the way this works is I'm going to go ahead and log in with my super secret password under the facilitator login. And we're going to go W1RCP super secret password, and we'll click login. Now, if you want to participate in a different type of exam, then, or not exam, sorry, trivia, you can also participate in Kyle, Alpha Alpha Zero Zulu's channel. He also does a different kind of trivia, and I think he uses Kahoot. So his is a little bit different. So the code tonight is W1RCP-10746. You should also see that highlighted in my browser. That is the code that you're going to enter. Now, I do know that tonight I made a mistake and forgot to set the delay to the right spot. And because that delay is 30 seconds, there's going to be 30 seconds. All right, so name is already in there. Great. That's going to be a teenager, guaranteed. And Ashley's in. Alrighty, so now that we got a few players in, we're going to go ahead and start the reading. What is the maximum? And hey, guys, I don't know the answers to all these. So there is that. Go to hamtesttrivia.com/play.php if you're just tuning in. And it says, what is the maximum peak envelope power output for technician class operators in their HF band segments? So you can go ahead and choose your answer, whether it's 200 watts, 100 watts, 50 watts, or 10 watts. Then we'll move on to number 2 once you make your selection. Hopefully you've seen these questions before and you know some of the answers to them. Peak envelope power. And that should be, I did a little research. I think peak envelope power is what's coming out of your radio. So you can guess what that one's going to be. Why are simplex channels designated in the VHF, UHF band plans? Your 4 choices for that one. So stations within range of each other can communicate without tying up a repeater. For contest operation, listen, if you're contesting on VHF, UHF, good luck to you. C, for working DX only. Well, if DX is the county over. And so stations with simple transmitters can access the repeater without automated offset. What? I've kind of given y'all an idea about what the answer to that one could be. What weather condition? Now, we have done this one before. We've heard this question before, so you should have it. What weather condition might decrease range at microwave frequencies? What do y'all think the answer is? Hey there, Mr. Mr. D, which is N2AKJ. Good evening. Uh-oh, I think they've already turned in their answers. I got 2 people playing here at the house. N2AKJ is in the house tonight. I think this is the first time I've seen you live, so hey, welcome. I know we've made a few contacts on the air with Parks on the Air. I recognize that call sign. I haven't been playing outside much here lately. High winds, low barometric pressure, precipitation, or colder temperatures. Man, here's an easy way to remember for microwave frequencies. If you have a satellite and it rains, what happens? How can you determine the length of time that equipment can be operated or powered from a battery? It doesn't say operated, but that's sure what popped into my head. This one's a pretty easy math question. It's divide the watt-hour rating of the battery by the peak power consumption of the equipment. B, divide the battery ampere-hour rating by the average current draw of the equipment. That one sounds better. Multiply the watts per hour consumed by the equipment by the no, heck no. And multiply the square of the Okay, so you those of us that do Parks on the Air, we've got this pretty much figured out. You do the ampere hour rating by the average current draw of the equipment. I've had a 100 watt hour battery in my Jeep since I bought it. I've only charged it once. That thing's still going. Not for Parks on the Air, just because I use it so I don't run my battery dead if I'm sitting in a parking lot. Which decibel value most closely represents a power increase from 5 watts to 10 watts? Now, a doubling is going to be 3 decibels. Just remember that. 3 decibels is a doubling. And I don't know enough to talk about the power and the formula behind it, but it's a logarithmic scale. So doubling is not, it's just not the same. Alrighty, here we go. What electrical component? Now I do know we did this one either last week or week before last, because I asked my son, what electrical component stores energy in at that time it was a magnetic field. This week it's an electric field. So is it a varistor, a capacitor, an inductor, or a diode? Now, do you want a 50-50 chance? A varistor and a diode do not store charges, but capacitors and inductors do. So I'm going to yell across the room, Joe, what is it? He says it's capacitor. I think he's right. Which instrument would you use to measure electric potential? And I've been teaching this one in class, electric potential. A battery has 2 poles, And when you measure that potential is also known as electromotive force, which back in the day, it used to be an E. Now we go with a V for volts. So electric potential. Don't know what you got, but I marked what I got. Let's see. I got all 7 right because I remembered some of these. Alrighty, so polling the viewers out there. I actually don't even know how many people are watching right now, but I know that. So you're an extra. All right. So we might have to see how well you can do against me. I'm an extra. I do not remember. I remember very little from the extra exam. And it's crazy because a lot of that stuff I went to school for. But if you don't use it, you lose it. That's why I started doing this trivia time, is going through the exam questions so we could reboost our memory. The picture that I had for last week's, I had an Arduino stuck to my head. And that was so that we could upgrade our memories. Okay, so we're going to start a new game. We're going to go with Technician again. I think Technician is probably the most important. It is nice to be able to, for technicians to study and get started, then they can suffer like the rest of us. Hey, you know, one of the bigger things that I did a couple weeks ago was said, is the FCC going to bring back Morse code? No, they're not. Have no fear. But there are quite a few folks that had to do 13 words a minute to get their general. Or their extra, I think, was much faster than that. I was not alive during some of that time. Let's see, I think, was it 1997? No, it was 2007. I think it was 2007 when they relaxed that. So here we go. Here's the new code. It's W1RCP-22914. 22914. So we'll show you the whole screen right there. I'll let you guys get logged in if you want to get logged in. I've had a pretty good time doing some of these doohickeys. And okay, there you go. 20 WPM. I still cannot converse at 20 words a minute. I can do parks on the air at 20 words per minute. If you send anything other than state, you know, I've been here in states long enough, I can almost get them. I know that Massachusetts is not a Q. I was doing a Straight Key Century Club one weekend sprintathon, and somebody sent a QQ for their state, and I had no idea what a QQ was, because that's all I heard was da 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 da, and because they didn't put a space in it, it was straight key, and I privately messaged them because it was Straight Key Century Club, and we had a sked page, and I asked them, I said, "What is a Q?" And they said, "Oh, no, it's not a Q. It's Massachusetts, MA." So I was not counting DAWs at that time, but was definitely booking it. But as far as conversational CW, I've never made it past about 12 to 15 words a minute. And even then, after about 10 minutes, my brain turns to mush. Straight mush. Okay, I'm going to start reading these questions. And I think I've talked long enough. So which of the following VHF-UHF band segments are limited to CW only? Oh dear. Is this a trivia? I mean, is this a technician? Drew, what's the answer? I need the answer. That's N2AKJ. I believe it's Drew. If I got your name wrong, let me know. All these sound like wonderful answers. I think it's just this one. I'm going to go with that one, and I'm going to stick with it. We'll see what everybody else. "23 words per minute." Lowercase a, capital A. You'll get it. You'll get that message across in a minute. Yep. And now you know what the delay is between when you send and when I can actually read it. All right. What cue signal indicates that you are changing frequency? Well, that's interesting. This is more of a Morse code thing, because, or CW for us hams, but cue signals, we say them on FM even, QSY. Oops, I told you all the answer. Oops. Well, QSY is what you use to, you're going somewhere else, changing frequencies. QSL could either mean I understand, or QSL with a question mark could be do you understand, and QRZ, actually I don't know what QRZ without the question mark means. I know if you put the question mark it says who's calling. Alrighty, so which of the following results from the fact that signals propagated by the ionosphere are elliptically polarized? And it's interesting, an elliptical polarization is very, very interesting. And that's really with HF, a lot of times it doesn't really matter too much if you're on a vertical or a horizontal antenna for HF, because it goes bouncing all over the place, pew 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 pew, and it's changed its polarization probably a couple of times. So this one, either vertically or horizontally polarized antennas can be used. Now on VHF, because it's not typically something that's going to be, and I say not typically, something that's going to be super long distance, a lot of times you want the same polarization because it's not going to be flipping around its orientation. Alrighty, guys, so we've seen some of these questions before, definitely coming down the line here. What must be programmed into a D-Star digital transceiver before transmitting? Well, if you think, what do you put out on the radio before you transmit, or right at the beginning of a transmission? Alrighty, and now we're into the electronics section of the technician exam. What is the unit of capacitance? Is it the farad, the ohm, the volt, or the Henry? I think if I know anybody who's Henry, I think I'm going to start calling them the Henry like I call it the Walmarts. And I don't really do that, but the unit of capacitance. You know, if you've ever had a farad-sized capacitor, you've had a farad-sized capacitor. It was probably huge. Some of the audiophile guys back when I was a driving teenager, you know, the folks that wanted to have that super extra low deep end kick in their trunk usually had a couple of very large capacitors. We're talking 12 to 18 inches in size and 4, 6, 8 inches in diameter. And it would store all of that energy in an electric field, and then it would release it when it needed it because of the amount of power that they'd be drawing in their trunk would be more than the resistance of the wire could actually deliver from the battery to their trunk, even though they're using 0-aught gauge or whatever. Okay, so what type of electrical component consists of conductive surfaces separated by an insulator? Hey, somebody's got my voice going on in the background. So let me put myself back on camera here for a second. The capacitors, like if you think one of my favorite projects is a Leyden jar. You take and you can put water in the Leyden jar, and then on the outside you put foil, and then you drop an electrode down into the water, and then the foil you just hold on to. Then you hand it. Well, first you got to charge it. You use some kind of special rag and a piece of PVC to get all of that static to store up in there. And the insulator is the glass. And then you just let it sit on your desk, really is the fun one. And then the kids come around and they get curious and they pick it up and then they touch it and bam! Takes them to another place. Can you take me higher? So the conductive surfaces separated by an insulator is a capacitor. And depending on what the insulator is and the thickness of the insulator and how much surface area you actually have that is insulated by that insulator determines how much capacitance and how many coulombs you could store in there. And coulombs is the measure of electrons. I used to know what that actually was. It's a lot. I think 1 coulomb's like 6 gajillion electrons. All right, which instrument can be used to determine the standing wave ratio, SWR? And we have... What? I thought iambic pentameter was... I thought that was for, like, poems and stuff like that. Okay, submit trivia questions. I made another 100. Yes. All right, guys, so if you need to go over these answers, I'm going to scroll through. You can go back and watch this later. You most likely will get the answers on your screen. Oh, no, look, there's Oliver Explains. I made a 0, but I love to try. Was that you, son? Apparently not. That must be my wife in the other room on my little boy's channel. Okay, so let's move up to general. Let's get a little more complicated. And let's see. Start new game. Don't enter the code yet, but the general's good till 2027. If you guys are going for extra, that is going to expire in about a month and a half. So the code for this one, let's do some general. I'm going to copy this code. It's W1RCP-86073. I'm going to put that in the chat in case you want to copy and paste it. There is a lag, so 30 seconds later, and I'm going to say thank you so much for trying. It's about to get worse. So if that is my wife in the other room playing along, this is about to be over her head big time. Gosh, as much as I talk about ham radio, she should be used to some of this stuff. All right, so here's where things get kind of crazy. I'm going to go ahead and start reading some of these questions. In what part of the 2-point gigahertz band may an amateur station communicate with non-licensed Wi-Fi stations? Holy moly. In what part of the... Hang on a minute.
Do I get these?
Is that my money?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just got back $5 in quarters from my son.
I thought you $5.
Oh, I made a quarter. Okay. In what part of the 2.4 gigahertz band did y'all know that there are certain channels that you can participate with Wi-Fi greater than, I think it's, 1 milliwatt? Wi-Fi is not really a high power thing. It may be 100 milliwatts. So, I'm going to say no part. I don't think that we can... Well, but what if you're sending something to a router somewhere else to somebody else and you're sharing data? Y'all, I have no idea what the answer is. I'm going to say no part. There are certain spots where you can. I haven't studied it. So let's see. Is anybody caught up to me yet? Doesn't look like it. Whew. This one's a tough one, and I'm stuck on it. So I'm just going to say no part, and we'll find out what the answer is at the end. What is a QRP operation? Quick response protocol is absolutely usually not what we get, especially here since the sun's been burping on the earth so much that us QRP folks... Now, I don't know if I could put myself in that same, but I love to go out and do QRP. It is fun just to go out with a little 5-watt radio and just see what happens. But I am not against running 100 watts. Sorry, PP man. All right, which frequency will have the least attenuation for long distance skip propagation? So the least attenuation. So is it just below the MUF? Do you know what MUF means? The maximum usable frequency. I believe that's right. Just below the MUF. Just above the lowest usable frequency. Well, if the lowest is 80 meters, it's probably not going to go very far. Just below the critical frequency or just above the critical frequency. Now watch me get this wrong, but I believe it's just below the MUF. How much change in signal strength is typically represented by 1 S unit? I'm going 6 decibels. 6 decibels. Which of the following is opposition to the flow of alternating current? Opposition. So it's going against, opposition to the flow of alternating current in a capacitor. Is that conductance? Well, that doesn't sound like opposition. Reluctance. That does kind of reluctant to let you pass. But don't let that fool you. Reactance. Or admittance. All right, so you could use a little bit of deductive reasoning if you have even the least bit of knowledge about this. The only two that I really think are possible answers are conductance or reactance. And conductance, if I'm not mistaken, is the inverse of resistance. And reactance is just, it's alternating current resistance. So it's a little bit different. So I think that's the right answer. What is the advantage of batteries with low internal resistance? Did y'all know that batteries actually have resistance? They do. They do. They absolutely do. And as the battery dies, that resistance goes up, which means the amount of current that it can deliver does what? If your resistance goes up, remember that you got current equals voltage divided by resistance. Yeah, Drew. Drew says it's reactance. I hate this delay. I need to make sure to check my schedule, my settings the next time we do this. Current equals voltage divided by resistance. So if resistance is going up, the value of your fraction, assuming that this stays the same, your voltage stays the same, as the resistance goes up, the value of what's coming out is going to shrink. It's going to go down. Because the bigger the number at the bottom, the denominator of a fraction, the bigger that number is, the smaller your number is going to be. Now, if you were to take that number in the denominator and make it so small that it goes below 1, then you start multiplying the number on top. It's because it's a fraction under a fraction. Okay, that's enough math for today. That's going to be my summer reading. Is I want to learn calculus again, relearn it. So the answer to this, if you have a low internal resistance, then you're going to have the ability to have a high discharge current. If we're running our radios at 18 and 20 amps, you want to be able to have batteries with a low internal resistance so you don't have a voltage drop. Okay, which of the following describes the function of a 2-input AND gate? Oh my gosh. I remember reading this in my Radio Shack 50-in-1 kit, and I hated this because I didn't understand it as a kid. Okay, so an AND gate has to have this and that. This and that. If you don't have this and that, then you don't get it. Okay? So that's a good way to remember it. So output is high when either or both. Did I say you could have this or this? It's this and this. Output is high only when both inputs are high. Now, this is bad test taking strategy. Read all the answers. Output is low when either or both inputs are high. Output is low only when both inputs are high. So that we know that 2-input AND gate is going to have to be, the AND has got to be whatever state it's coming into it. It's not a NAND gate, which would be the opposite. So output is high only when both inputs are high. Now, I could talk a good game through this general right now, but when we get to the extra stuff, we're going to do one extra after this, and then we'll be done for the night. But this is stuff. Now, okay, now I'm about to sound real stupid, so just get ready for it. Anybody else in the same boat with me? I think my friend Eddie is watching, KO4 November Lava Lava. I want to give him a shout out. Thanks, buddy, for supporting me and hanging out with me through the YouTubeage. All right, so what combination of a mixer's local oscillator and RF input frequencies is found in the output? Okay, I think I might be able to fake this one till I make it. The combination of a mixer's local oscillator and the RF input frequencies coming from the antenna, I would assume, is found at the output of that mixer. So, what I do know from doing personal projects and watching YouTube videos, shout out to W2AEW, Alan at Tech. He's got a great channel. Go check his out if you want to learn some super nerdy stuff that's way beyond some of our heads. but he has a great channel and he explains it well. But this really hit home with some of the videos that I've watched from him and some things that I learned in school. I have to refresh my mind a bunch. So when you mix two frequencies, you're going to get a result that results in two frequencies, which is the sum and the difference, assuming that they are pure. It get real ugly. It get real ugly when it is not pure, like an electric guitar, for example. Mixing frequencies in the electric guitar, you get all kinds of harmonics. I used to make tube guitar amps. I have a bunch around the house, and I love to dirty those things up. So you're going to get the sum and the difference through a mixer. And if I'm not mistaken, I think a mixer is shown in a block diagram as a circle with an X in the middle. I might be wrong, but I think that's what it is. Alrighty, so what is the relationship between a high standing wave ratio and transmission line loss? Now, I got to think about this one a minute. Let's read the answers first, then we'll talk about it. There is no relationship between transmission line loss and SWR. I don't know about that. High SWR increases loss in a lossy transmission line. That sounds inviting as an answer. High SWR makes it difficult to measure transmission line loss. I think you can rule that one out. And high SWR reduces the wait, what? Don't we wish? High SWR reduces the relative effect of transmission line loss? Now that's rainbows and fairy junk right there. Okay, so my understanding is if you have transmission line loss and you have power coming back, that's probably resulting in some sort of loss. So I am going to put high SWR increases loss in a lossy transmission line because you've got power going out and then it's being reflected back. It seems like it's going to have to go back through there again. So you're getting hit by the wave twice, you know? That's my reasoning. Watch me be wrong. Anybody else got anything to say about that? Yeah, you know, it's because we just go ahead and start doing what we want to do in the ham radio hobby, Eddie. It's we've been playing radio this whole time and not really keeping up with the Joneses on this and keeping our knowledge fresh. I'm with you there, bud. Okay, last one. What type of instrument can be used to accurately measure an RF field strength? Now, I used to have something that had where you could drop a wire off of it and you could use it as a field strength meter. But it was actually the same connection that you would connect to a long wire. If I'm not mistaken, I haven't had this thing in a long time. I think it got broken when I moved. But it had a power input so that you could measure the power going to the antenna too. I want to say it was by MFJ. May they rest in peace. I'm going to read this in just a minute, but I know that A is not the right answer. I'm about to level the playing field. We're trying to get Eddie to take the extra exam this coming Saturday. So the last one's going to be for him. What type of instrument can be used to accurately measure an RF field strength? So is it a receiver with DSP noise reduction? Don't think so. A calibrated field strength meter with a calibrated antenna. That sounds like a great answer. SWR meter with peak reading function. I don't think so. An oscilloscope with a high stability crystal marker generator. Was that like a Sharpie? I'm going to go with B. I'm going to go ahead and submit. Oh, I could be a general. Okay, so I led nobody astray. Nobody astray on this one tonight. So how'd you guys do? We have about 18 minutes left, and it's going to take me that long to get through the extra. So Eddie, KO4, November, lova, this one's for you, buddy. Let's see how you're going to do. I hope you've been cramming this week. You got one more day left. We are going to use the 2020 to 2024 extra. I understand that come July, this one is not going to be, this extra exam is not going to be available anymore. It expires and the new one takes over. So the code is W1RCP-06741. That is an op amp. If you don't know what a 741 is, it's a great op amp. Makes for some real dirty distortion if you overdrive it. All right, Drew, I just realized that you weren't just typing random letters. I realize now that you are typing answers to questions, and I'm so sorry. I just noticed it. I wish that you would have put the question number with that. my bad, Drew. All right, so we're about to start the extra exam. Let's see if Eddie's already in there. I know we're 30 seconds behind each other. There he is. This is for you, buddy. This is for you. Alrighty, so, oh man, this is an embarrassment for me because I am an extra, and I am a no-code extra. I love Morse code, though, dadgummit. But I have not stayed up with the times. If I make a 70, at least I will be happy. So what must be done before... Oh, I know the answer to this one already. This does not apply to those of us with an antenna hanging off of our Jeep. What must be done before placing an amateur station within an officially designated wilderness area or wildlife preserve, or an area listed in the National Register of Historic Places? So I know that the answer is an environmental assessment. I know that with a 25%. I'm 25% sure that's the right answer. This one has been brought up on the Parks on the Air Facebook page multiple times. It is talking about a permanent amateur station. If you're just out there with your AX1, don't worry. You don't, that's not what they're talking about. Okay. All right. Question number 2. Eddie, you and I talked about this the other day, if I'm not mistaken. It could have been me and Billy, though, your other ham buddy there, KO4NLK, also known as. How many horizontal lines make up fast scan NTSC television? Let me tell you, it's not 1080. Fast scan NTSC television frame. We're not talking about frames per second here. Frame. So that knocks out A and B. We're not talking about frames per second. We're talking about how many horizontal lines does it make it up. That's your choice. C. Oh, no. Hey, Chris, good evening. Alpha Echo 4, X-Ray Oscar. Good evening, Chris. Glad you joined us. You're one of them old-timer extra guys, too, if I'm not mistaken. You said you got yours back in, what, 1996? I think that was what you said either last week or no, you weren't here last week. Week before last, you said that was a tough year, and I'm not going to expose you here, bud. It's probably been a long time since you've had to think about these questions. All right, what does the space weather term G5 mean? An extreme geomagnetic storm. Very low solar activity. Moderate solar wind. Waning sunspot numbers. Okay, G stands for geomagnetic, and a G5 is probably going to be a humdang-dinger. So I think I got that one right. Yeah, I realized it was during the Olympics because what Chris had said, to give you all a history from 2 weeks ago, if you want to go check that video out, I actually don't think that any of the live chat actually appears in those because I've never gone back to watch them. But he said that was a tough year, and I thought he was talking about the disaster of the 1996 Olympics. And he was not. He was talking about the disaster of working towards his extra. Y'all, I hope my audio's okay. I don't think it has been in the green once tonight. I've been just too excited. I just cut my audio back for the last 10 minutes so it won't sound so distorted. All right, why can an attenuator be used to reduce receiver overload on the lower frequency HF bands with little or no impact on signal to noise ratio? So we're talking about reducing receiver overload with an antenna. Man, the attenuator has a low-pass filter to increase the strength of lower frequency signals. The attenuator has a noise filter to suppress interference. Signals are attenuated separately from the noise, or atmospheric noise is generally greater than internally generated noise even after attenuation. So an attenuator, it attenuates everything that's coming in. If you're getting a receiver overload, you're putting that attenuator so that the guy who's running 5 watts 100 yards from you doesn't blow up your radio, supposedly. I have no idea, guys. I have no idea. I'm going to just pick C. Signals are not attenuated separately from the noise unless it comes from your radio. So, I don't know. I don't have a clue. Okay. So I'm looking for... So we got his tech. Okay, you get. We're talking about Drew here. Got his tech in '96, general in 2022. Wow, what a gap! An extra a few months later. So we are. Eddie is a VE. He can only do, in our area, Eddie KO4 NLL lives in the almost the same county almost. He has to throw a rock over to the next county to be close to me. And so he's a VE, but right now he can only test technicians. And I became a VE so I could give back and get some more, pouring back into it. But we're pretty young, so we're going to be around a while, so we decided to jump in there. You know, the good thing is a VE really doesn't need to know the answers. They make it pretty easy for us to grade these, right? It's not like being a teacher where you make the test and you have to know the answers. How do I know that? I'm a teacher. What is admittance? Okay. So I lied earlier. Admittance is the AC version of... Oh man, I can't even think of the word now. It's getting too late. I think that's the inverse of impedance. Admittance, impedance. Impedance is no. Admittance is the inverse of that. So you do the reciprocal of the equation there, the reciprocal of the fraction. The DC side is resistance, and brain fart. I know it's measured in Siemens. SIEMENS, but I cannot remember the exact term, and I've used it several times this week and last week. But anyways, I believe that admittance is the opposite and inverse of impedance. Answer is B for the attenuator. I'm cheating now. Because Drew told me where to put that B this time. Which of the following noise figure values is typical of a low noise UHF preamp? So, noise figure. Now, I believe that a noise figure needs to be below 0 or negative. I think if you have a positive noise filter, that's probably bad. So we have negative 10 and negative 20 to choose from. I'm going to go negative 20 on this one. I'll be watching the chat before I submit this if I need to go back and change any answers. So I'm still trying to think of the opposite of resistance. Of resistance. Come on now. Incompetence. Let's look up. Oh, I didn't spell opposite right. Poo-poo site. Come on, guys. I know this is not what we're here for, but you can't cheat on the test. But conductance. Oh my God, I'm dumb. No, I'm just tired. That's all. Okay, which of the following? That's the greatest search of the web ever right there, because I just couldn't see what I was typing. Which of the following can be used to generate FM phone emissions? I am not a... Okay, so Drew, you're saying you think it's negative 10. I'm going to stick with negative 20. I'm going to hold my guns on this one. Let's see. A balanced modulator on the audio amplifier, a reactance modulator on the oscillator, a reactance modulator on the final. It's not going to be on the final amplifier. It's got to be before that. A balanced modulator on the oscillator. So frequency modulation, if you're going to change the frequency, I think it's going to be based on a reactance to change that frequency when it mixes with your audio. So I'm going to go with a reactance modulator on the oscillator. I'm going to go with B. And as it stands in the chat, it says, I think it's a B. from Drew. I know it's not on this question, but hey, it works for this one right here. I'm going with reactance modulator. All right, we're on question 8. Eddie, have you already submitted your answer? Your answers. You said not too hot earlier. What type of wave does a Fourier analysis show to be made up of sine wave? Okay, let me start this over. Holy cow. What type of wave does a Fourier analysis show to be made up of sine waves of a given fundamental frequency plus all of its harmonics? Okay, I'm pretty sure this one's a B as well. Did you know? So a Fourier analysis is some special. It's very special. It's a mathematical something or other that breaks up something into the sum, and it's very calculus-like. So a square wave, and I used to do that. I did this in college, but I forgot how to because that was 12 years ago when I graduated. But a square wave, and I know this because a square wave, I believe, is also a lot of odd harmonics. If it's a solid state, and I think it's even harmonics if it is tube-like. But a square wave is made up of a bunch of sine waves. It's pretty neat. Go Google that one later if you want to really get your mind blown. It's neat how all that comes together into a square wave. So if you're using a square wave as a transmitter, that's a horrible idea. So with that, I'm going to do an activation probably in the first or second week of my school summer with the Pixie. And I have a 40 meter and an 80 meter Pixie. But I built a box that should be able to reduce some of the harmonics because the filter in the Pixie 2 transmitter is only like a one-pole filter. It's just one pi. And it should be multiple stages to get that negative 60 decibel reduction of those harmonics. So I'm afraid what's going to happen is I'm going to wind up getting spotted on the POTA website, Parks on the Air, POTA.app, and then the harmonics coming out of the antenna could spot me at a double. So if I'm on 7.052, I could show up on 14.104 because that's the second harmonic. Okay, so moving right along. What parameter describes the interactions at the load end of a mismatched transmission line? The load end. I'm going to say reflection coefficient because I don't know. I don't have a clue. Okay, so now my sister has joined in, and now this has turned into sort of a bunch of shenanigans. So y'all say hello to my sister. She's under her husband's Facebook or YouTube account. So she's looking for a specific part, and I'm interested to see what she has to say. Y'all can go watch us activate a part. She sits and comments while I make commentary on while I'm calling CQ electronically. And we sat in a park for over an hour and a half during what had to be an not electromagnet, but a sunburp. Alrighty, Eddie, we're on the last one. We're over an hour already. Why are there separate electric and magnetic field MPE limits? Okay, first I want to start off by saying I watched a video the other day I believe it was Neil deGrasse Tyson. I think it was in one of his Star Talks. I'm trying to think of who it was. I've been watching a lot of him lately. I'm a nerd. That's normal for me. They travel at right angles. So I know that much. But the body reacts to electromagnetic radiation from both the E and H fields. Ground reflections and scattering make the field strength vary with location. Now, we're talking about MPE limits. Most likely, you're going to be near the transmitter if you're worried about MPE limits. So we're not thinking long distance here. So ground reflections and scattering I don't believe are going to really make that vary with location because, I mean, you're right there at the antenna or within a few feet of it. E and H field radiation intensity peaks can occur at different locations, or all of these choices are correct. Unfortunately, even though I have tried to reason through it, I think the answer is going to be B. Because it is true, ground reflections might have something to do with this. I do not know the answer to this. I just know that there are some different limits there. Hey, come on down. Come on down. What do I have to apologize for? Have you been texting me? Because, no, I have not looked at your Snapchat. Yes, I'm talking to my sister, totally unrelated to what we're working on, but... Oh, yes. Bingo, Christy. Bingo. Yeah, we take her to freaking bingo the other night. She's actually in South Carolina. Took her to bingo, and she took the whole kit, half of the kit and caboodle. She won the money round with my $2. We should have signed a contract beforehand. Okay, so I'm waiting on the answer to that last one. Does anybody else have input before I hit submit and we go ahead and wrap up the stream? Separate E and H. The body reacts to radiation of course it reacts. You know what? I'm almost at the point that it's D. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to wait and see. Hey, you know what? I teach high school. I have mentioned that a time or two in class. You can imagine teaching high schoolers, talking about Jonathan Greiner, Christy Greiner's last comment about Siemens, S-I-E-M-E-N-S. Yeah, Drew, I'm totally along the lines of D. We rolling with it. Ew. I said I would hope for a 70, and by God, I got a 70. Let's go find out what W1RCP missed. Okay. Oh, no. Didn't I originally have D? Oh, I'm going to have to do an instant replay on this. See, this is why I don't copy off my neighbor. Drew, I think, told me that it was probably B. I ain't mad at you, bro. Atmospheric noise is generally greater than internally generated noise, even after attenuation. So I should have stuck with that one, I guess. Okay, so that's one of the three that I missed. Ew. Gross. 2 decibels. See, that wasn't even on my radar. That was not on my radar. I did not know. I don't know what a noise figure value. But, Eddie, if you see this question on the test, 2 decibels, broski. Uh-oh. mean, I wasn't wrong about a square wave being a sum, but I think the given fundamental frequency plus all of its harmonics and possibly Fourier, it's a sawtooth wave. Okay, maybe we need to review that. The only way to review that, guys, we've gone over the limit of this thing, but I can get the stats for this. So I'm going to go look at the stats really quick of the. Okay, so for those of you that want to know, every single one of these are live. So if you want to go back and mess around with any of these numbers, take your screenshot now. But that last one, let's get the results and close this. Uh-oh, Eddie, you might be in trouble. I just forgot. Was that question 8? Okay, what is the process that shows a square wave is made up of sine wave? You know what? I told y'all that junk was odd harmonics. Fourier analysis, odd harmonics. Okay, that's all I needed to see. Now, see, if you were to purchase a license to this, you could do this with your club, and you could go through the answers of each section. If you saw that there were a lot of missed answers there, analog to digital conversion is successive approximation. I'm doing this for you, Eddie. If it is a given fundamental frequency plus all its harmonics, not the odd, but all the harmonics, is a sawtooth wave. See, I did not know that. That's interesting. So you only have 2 to choose from. A sine wave and a cosine wave are basically the same. Sine starts at 0, and at 0, sine is a 0. And cosine at 0 is a 1. It's just shifted 90 degrees. So dither. A small amount of noise added to the input signal. Okay, so RMS voltage of a complex waveform is going to be a true RMS calculating meter. I bet that's expensive. Approximate ratio of peak envelope power to average power in a typical sideband phone signal is 2.5 to 1. I've missed that one a few times. I think I got it. I'm not going to read the rest of these, but I am going to scroll through them, and you can pause your video to check them out. Okay, so listen up. There are other places you can go to read all of the answers to these questions. ncvec.org is where these questions come from. And you can go to that 2020 to 2024 extra class pool, and you can look at the diagrams. You can get the whole pool in PDF form or the docx. If get the PDF if you don't have Word, and you can go through and look at the correct answers of every single question on that test. Go through and just look at the letter and read the right answer. Pavlov. Do Pavlov. Just go through. Look at the right answer. Beep. B. Reasonable accommodations of the amateur radio must be made. Okay, so that's where you'll find it, is ncvec.org. They're the ones that have been tasked by the FCC to make these tests. It's just VECs. They team up. They make it happen. Okay, so I'm Rob, W1RCP, and this has been our Ham Test Trivia Amateur Radio Trivia Night. Thursday nights, the time's been different every time. So we'll show up when we show up. Thank you guys. Thank you all for tuning in this evening and participating with us here. I appreciate all of your oh my God. Thank you to my sister for joining. I want to thank my wife for putting up with me through all this, because it's an hour a week plus any time that I have to prepare. Going back to Drew's comment, dude, drive down to Georgia during the summer hit us up on a weekend. We'll make time for you if you're a guest in town. Now weekdays stink, but hey, 73 to you, Eddie. 73 to you, buddy. I'll see you this Saturday. Maybe even see you tomorrow for some steak, buddy. All right, so I want to say goodnight to everybody. Thanks so much. Thank you to my kids for being good during this time. And with that, I want to say 73 and good night.